Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 6 NFL predictions. So last week, I was not good predicting, going to 6-8, and that brings my record on the season to 49-28. But hopefully, I can bounce back this week. We'll start things off on Thursday Night Football with the Eagles at the Giants. So the Eagles, they're coming off their first loss season as they lost to the Broncos last week, and then they'll face the Giants, who are also coming off a loss, as the Giants, they lost to the previous winless Saints, and the Giants are now 1-4. But for the Eagles, this is a pretty good chance for them to get back in the win column this week. But on the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles, they were not good last week, just 17 points, and their offense has been pretty inconsistent so far this season. And a big reason why is they have not run the football effectively, as they're averaging just 99 rushing yards per game, and that is really surprising for a team that on paper has one of the best rushing offenses in the NFL. And the Eagles offense, they face the Giants defense that has been pretty good so far this season, although not against the run, as the Giants are allowing an average of 140 rushing yards per game and 5.3 yards per carry. Then on the offensive side of the ball for the Giants, I really don't have high expectations. They scored just 14 last week against a Saints defense that's not great, plus they turned it over 5 times. And on top of all that, they have nobody to throw the ball to this week. Now, I do think the Giants could have some success on the ground because Cam Skadoo has been pretty good, plus they get Tyrone Tracy back from injury. And the Eagles' run defense hasn't been anything too great, but I just don't think that's going to be enough for the Giants to find a ton of offensive success. But this is a game that I definitely think is going to be closer than some people think, because the Eagles, they haven't played a complete game yet this season, and from what we've seen, they don't seem like they're going to blow somebody out. But I am going to take the Eagles to get the win. Obviously, as a Giants fan, I would love if I'm wrong, but I do think the Eagles will win. I think they're the better overall team. I think they'll run the football effectively, and I've got the Eagles by a score of 23-15. Moving to the games on Sunday, beginning with the Broncos against the Jets in London. The Broncos, they've been playing pretty well, and they've won back-to-back games, and they just upset the Eagles last week. And I think the Broncos are going to continue to play well, because they face the Jets, who are currently the only winless team in the NFL, as they're sitting at 0-5. But the offense for the Broncos, they've been pretty good so far this season, and they ended last week's game on a good note, scoring 18 points in the fourth quarter. And I think the offense for Denver is going to be really good once again, because they face a Jets defense that has not been good, allowing 31.4 points per game, which is second worst in the NFL. Now, offensively for the Jets, they haven't been terrible, as they're scoring 22.4 points per game, but they draw a tough matchup against a elite Broncos defense that is allowing just 16.8 points per game, which is tied for second best in the NFL. But I have the Broncos getting the win here. I think they win this game fairly easily. They're the clear better team. The Jets might be the worst team in the NFL, and I've got the Broncos easily by a score of 27-13. Moving on, we have the Cardinals at the Colts. So the Cardinals, they're coming in off a tough loss to the Titans, where they blew a 21-6 lead. And they have to try to bounce back against a Colts team, one of the best teams in the NFL, as they're 4-1, and they just beat the Raiders by 34 last week. But a big reason the Colts have been so good this season has been their offense, as they're scoring 32.6 points per game, which is second best in the NFL. Plus, Daniel Jones is third in the league in passing yards, and Jonathan Taylor leads the league in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. But the Colts offense, they face a Cardinals defense that is pretty solid, allowing 19.2 points per game. And they're good against the run, allowing under 100 rushing yards per game. Now, offensively for the Cardinals, they're okay and they definitely have potential. They just can't seem to put it all together, and even when they do, they drop the ball at the goal line. But the Cardinals offense, they now have to face a Colts defense that is pretty good, as they're third in the NFL, allowing 17.8 points per game. So I have the Colts getting the win here. They've been great so far this season, and I actually do think they're a good team. I was a little hesitant to say that earlier in the year, but after 5 games, I do think this is a very good Colts team. I think the Cardinals are solid, but they haven't been playing that well, losing 3 games in a row, and I've got the Colts with the win by a score of 27-19. Up next, we have the Chargers at the Dolphins. The Chargers, they're coming off back-to-back losses to NFC East teams, losing to the Giants and the Commanders, and then they'll face a Dolphins team that's not very good, as they're 1-4. And this is definitely a big opportunity for the Chargers to get back on track. But the offense for the Chargers has not been too good in their last 2 games, which is 18 points against the Giants and 10 last week. And a big reason why the offense has struggled has been injuries, as they're now without their top 2 running backs, Amari Hampton and Najee Harris, plus left tackle Joe Alt. And without Joe Alt on the field, the offensive line is not good. But the good news for the Chargers is this week they get a Dolphins defense that is not very good, as they're 6th worst in the NFL, allowing 29 points per game. Plus, the Dolphins defense is the worst run defense in the NFL. So if the Chargers can find somebody to run the ball with, I do think they'll run the ball effectively. Then offense for the Dolphins, they've been a little bit better recently, scoring 24 last week and 27 the week before. But their offense still isn't amazing, scoring about 21 points per game on the season. And then they'll face a good Chargers defense that is allowing 19.6 points per game. But this is a big opportunity for the Chargers to get a much needed win and avoid going from 3-0 to 3-3. And I do think the Chargers get a much needed win. They do have to go on the road, but they're the better team. I think their defense controls this game, and I've got the Chargers with the win by a score of 24-16. Up next, we have the Browns at the Steelers. So the Browns, they're coming off a close loss to the Vikings in London, but in that game they played pretty well. And quarterback Dylan Gabriel made his first NFL start, and he was pretty solid, throwing for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he also did that against a pretty good Vikings defense. And I think Gabriel and the Browns offense could be pretty good once again, because they face a Steelers defense that has been kind of disappointing so far this season, allowing 24.5 points per game, and their pass defense has not been good, as they're third worst, allowing 260 passing yards per game. Now, on the offensive side of the ball for the Steelers, they've been solid, putting up about 24 per game, although they're only averaging 260 yards per game, which is actually fourth worst in the NFL. And then they'll face a Browns defense that has been pretty good, as in terms of yards allowed per game, they're second best, allowing 247. But this game where I would not be shocked if the Browns with the upset win. If they were home, I might take them to get the win, but because the Steelers are home and coming off a bye, I'm going to take the Steelers. But this is a game that can definitely go either way, and I wouldn't be shocked to see the Browns with the upset, but I've got the Steelers in a close one, 21-20. Up next, we have the Cowboys at the Panthers. So this is an interesting game. The Cowboys, they've been playing fairly well recently, as they're 2-2-1, and in their last 2 games, they've tied the Packers and destroyed the Jets. And the Cowboys then face a Panthers team that's 2-3. Although I do think this game should be pretty entertaining, because I think a lot of points are going to be scored. But the offense for the Cowboys, they've been great this season, scoring 30.2 points per game, and Dak Prescott has been playing at an extremely high level, as he's top 3 both passing yards and passing touchdowns. And I think Dak and the offense will have another big game, because the Panthers' defense isn't anything special, along about 24 points per game. Now, on the flip side, the Panthers' offense is decent, scoring 20.4 points per game, but they've been very inconsistent, and they'll a great one half, but look terrible the next. Well, I do think they will play pretty well against a bad Dallas defense that is fourth worst in the NFL. But because neither team is great defensively, I do think we're going to see a higher scoring game. But I think the Cowboys, they've got the better offense. I don't think Carolina can keep up, and I've got the Cowboys with the win by a score of 34-24. Moving on, we have the Seahawks at the Jaguars. So this is a pretty good game, as we have the Seahawks who are 3-2 against the Jaguars who are 4-1. And this matchup is pretty good. On the offensive side of the ball for the Seahawks, they've been great, as they're 5th in the NFL, scoring just under 30 points per game, and they just scored 35 last week against the Buccaneers. And they face a Jaguars defense that has been pretty solid, allowing about 20 points per game, plus they just traded for Greg Newsome from the Browns. Then on the offensive side of the ball for the Jaguars, they've also been good, as they're scoring 25.4 points per game, and they were great last week with 31 against the Chiefs, and Trevor Lawrence also had a nice game. But the Jags offense, they face a Seahawks defense that is allowing 21 points per game on the season, although they were not good last week, allowing 38 points and 370 passing yards. So I could see Trevor Lawrence having another big game. Well, I think this game is going to be pretty good, and even though both these teams are good defensively, I do think this is going to be a higher scoring game because both offenses are playing well. But in a game like this, usually I would take the home team, but in this case, I'm going to take the Seahawks, who are obviously on the road. But the Seahawks, they're one of the best road teams in the NFL. They've won 9 of their last 10 games on the road. I think they make it 10 of their last 11. And I've got the Seahawks in a close game, 27-24. Moving on, we have the Rams at the Ravens. So the Ravens, they're really banged up and coming off a bad loss to the Texans, losing 44-10. And then I face a Rams team that's 3-2, but looking for a bounce-back win after a tough loss to the 49ers last week. But a big reason the Ravens were so bad last week was injuries, and it really doesn't get any easier this week because they're so extremely banged up. And that includes Lamar Jackson, who is very unlikely to play, as he still deals with hamstring injury. So Cooper Rush will get the start at quarterback for the second straight week, and he was not good last week, throwing 3 picks. And now that was against one of the best defenses in the NFL in the Texans, although the Rams defense is also quite good. Then on the offensive side of the ball for the Rams, they've been pretty good, scoring 24.6 points per game, and Matthew Stafford's been playing extremely well, and he actually leads the NFL with about 1,500 passing yards, and he's third with 11 touchdowns. And I think Stafford and the Rams offense will continue to play extremely well because this is the Ravens defense that already isn't good. Plus, then you factor in all the injuries, they might allow 50. But I don't really think this game is that close. I think this game is very similar to last week's game for the Ravens, and I've got the Rams winning pretty easily, 34-10. Next game, we have the Patriots at the Saints. The Patriots are coming off a big upset win over the Bills, and they have faced a pretty bad Saints team that's 1-4, although they got their first win of the season last week as they beat the Giants. But on the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots, they've been playing well, as they're scoring 25 points per game. Drake May has thrown the ball well, and receiver Stephon Diggs is also playing extremely well, with 100 yards in each of his last 2 games. But the Patriots offense, they face a Saints defense that gives up a lot of points, allowing 27 points per game, but they are pretty good against the pass, allowing just 204 passing yards per game. But then on the flip side, the Saints offense is not good, scoring just 18.4 points per game, and they match up against a pretty solid Patriots defense that is allowing 20.2 points a game. But I've got the Patriots with the win here. They're the better overall team. They got a big win last week. I think they carry that momentum into this week. I think their offense continues to play well against not great defense. And I've got the Patriots winning their third straight game by a score of 26-13. Next game, we have the Titans at the Raiders. This game probably isn't going to be very good, as both these teams have not been good, and they're 1-4. Although these teams are trending in opposite directions, as the Titans, they got their first win of the season last week, while the Raiders, they got destroyed last week and have lost 4 in a row. But the offense for the Titans, they have not been very good, as they're tied for worst in the NFL, scoring just 14.6 points per game. Although they did put up a season high 22 last week. So maybe they can build on that against a bad Raiders defense that is allowing 28 points per game. Now, on the other side, the Raiders offense also hasn't been good, as they're third worst in the NFL, scoring just 16.6 points per game. But they faced the Titans defense that also isn't good, as they're allowing 28.2 points a game. And the Titans defense also not good against the run, allowing 146 rushing yards per game. So I do think Ashton Jeanty could have a big game. But this is a game where I really have no idea who to pick because both these teams are that bad. But it could go either way. I'm going to take the Raiders because they're home. Plus, I think Ashton Jeanty plays well with a bad run defense. I think he leads the Raiders to the win, and the Raiders win 21-17, but I really have no idea who's going to win this game. Up next, with the 49ers at the Buccaneers. So the last game probably isn't going to be very good. This game should be quite good, as both these teams have been great to start the season, as they're 4-1. On the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers, Mac Jones is going to be getting the start at quarterback once again, as Brock Purdy remains out with an injury. But that could be a good thing for the 49ers, because Mac Jones, he's been playing really well, as in his 3 starts, he's averaging over 300 yards per game, go with 6 touchdowns and 1 interception. And Mac Jones, he leads a 49er offense that is scoring 21.2 points per game. And the Niners offense, they face a Buccaneers defense that is solid, although they have given up some points, as they're allowing 26.4 points a game on the season, and they just allowed 35 last week. Now, on the other side, the Buccaneers offense is also great, as they're scoring 27 points per game, and Baker Mayfield has been playing at an MVP level. And Mayfield and the Bucs offense, they face a 49er defense that has been playing pretty well, allowing 19.6 points per game, although they've struggled against the pass, and last week they allowed 350 passing yards. So I think this is going to be a great game. I think both these teams will continue to throw the ball well, and I think that's going to lead to this being a higher scoring, entertaining game. Well, I'm going to take the Buccaneers to get the win. They're at home, and I think that's the edge, but this game can definitely go either way, but I've got the Buccaneers in a fun game, 31-28. Up next, we have the Bengals at the Packers. The Packers, they're coming off a bye and looking to get back on track, as they're 2-1-1, although they didn't play that well before their bye week, with a loss to the Browns and a tie against the Cowboys. But they have a good opportunity to get back on track, as they face a Bengals team that is 2-3, and has lost 3 straight. Although something interesting, obviously the Bengals traded for Joe Flacco, and he's already beaten the Packers this season, when the Browns beat the Packers in week 3. So maybe Flacco can do it again. Although, I just don't think Flacco and this Bengals offense will find much success against a great Packer defense. Then on the offensive side of the ball for the Packers, they've been great. They're scoring 26 points per game, and I think that's going to continue against a Bengals defense that is third worst in the NFL, along 31.2 points per game. So I have the Packers getting the win here fairly easily. There's a slight chance for an upset because I guess Flacco can beat the Packers again, but I don't think it happens. I think the Packers get back on track and get a pretty easy win by a score of 27-10. Up next, we have the Lions at the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. And we'll have a live watch party for this game starting about 8:15 Eastern Time on Sunday, so I hope to see you guys there. But this game should be pretty good, as we have the Chiefs who are 2-3 against the Lions who are 4-1. Offensively for the Chiefs, they've been playing pretty well, as they scored 28 last week and 37 the week before, and on the season they're scoring 25 points per game, and Patrick Mahomes has also been playing well, as he's averaging 250 passing yards per game. But the Chiefs offense, they face the Lions defense that is pretty good, allowing 22.4 points per game, and they've also been solid against the pass, allowing 206 passing yards per game, and that ranks 12th in the NFL. And on the flip side of the Lions offense is weak, as they're best in the NFL, scoring 34.8 points per game, and they've been great through the air and on the ground, with an average of 230 passing yards per game and 134 rushing yards per game. But the Lions offense, they match up against a Chiefs defense that is allowing 21.4 points per game, and they have been pretty good against the pass, although not too great against the run. But I think this is going to be an entertaining game, and this is a game that could go either way. So I'm going to take the Lions to get the win. I just think they're the better overall team, plus they've been playing well, as they've won 4 in a row. And while I do think the Chiefs are a pretty good team, I just don't completely trust them, so I've got the Lions with the win by a score of 28-24. Moving to the games on Monday, beginning with the Bills at the Falcons. The Bills are looking for a bounce-back win after they lost to the Patriots last week for their first loss of the season. And they now face a Falcons team that's sitting at 2-2 and coming off a bye. But so far this season, the Falcons, they've been okay. Nothing too great, but nothing terrible. The offense for the Falcons has been okay, scoring 19 points per game, although Bijan Robinson has played pretty well. The Falcons offense, they face a Bills defense that is okay, allowing 22.6 points per game, although they're not very good against the run, allowing 145 rushing yards per game. Now, on the flip side, the Bills offense has been playing pretty well, scoring 30.6 points per game, which is third best in the NFL, although last week they were not good, with a season low 20 points. And the Bills, they also struggled with turnovers last week, giving it away 3 times. But the Bills offense, they face the Falcons defense that is pretty good, allowing 21.5 points per game, and they're actually allowing the fewest yards per game in the NFL, allowing 244 per game. But this is a game that could go either way. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Falcons with the win, but I think the Bills get a bounce back win. I think they're the better overall team, and I just don't really trust the Falcons with how inconsistent they've been, so I'm going to take the Bills with the win by a score of 28-22. And our final game, also on Monday, we've got the Bears at the Commanders. And we'll have a live watch party for this game, starting about 8:15 Eastern Time on Monday, so again, I hope to see you guys there. But the Commanders, they're coming off a nice win over the Chargers, and they're now 3-2, and they face a Bears team that's 2-2 and coming off a bye. Although before the bye for the Bears, they were playing pretty well with back-to-back wins. And their offense was also good with 31 points and 25 points in their 2 most recent games. And the Bears offense, they face a Commander defense that is solid but nothing amazing, allowing 20.2 points per game. And on the offensive side of the ball for the Commanders, they've been playing well. They're scoring 26.8 points per game, and they've been great on the ground with 156 rushing yards per game. And I think the Commanders offense is going to continue to play well, because the Bears defense is not great, allowing 29.3 points a game, and they've also really struggled against the run, allowing 164 rushing yards per game and 6.2 yards per carry. Both those stats are bottom 2 in the NFL. But I have the Commanders with the win here. I think they run the ball extremely effectively. I think that leads them to the win. Plus, they're just the better overall team, so I've got the Commanders with the win by a score of 26-16. But those are my Week 6 NFL predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to put as often as possible. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But that's all for this video. I do my best to put as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.